What happens to laws that came from the European Union in post-Brexit Britain? Well, the government's newly published repeal bill is meant to turn thousands of EU directives and regulations into UK law.
We are introducing a bill to repeal the European Communities Act, which ends the supremacy of EU law, to convert EU law into UK law, and to take certain powers necessary to correct the operation of the statute book. That will give certainty, continuity and control to individuals and businesses. It is conceptually simple, but it is quite technical to do.
That's something of an understatement, and it has to happen by spring 2019, when the UK actually leaves the EU. Opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, who travelled to meet the EU's chief Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier on Thursday, is demanding the government scraps the idea of using special powers to avoid Parliament debating future legal changes.
We would not allow the archaic process that the government seems to be embracing of the Henry VIII clauses, which allow essentially executive control overriding our parliamentary democracy. The government does not have a majority in Parliament. It doesn't have a mandate that can do what it likes with Parliament.
If Labour were to block the bill and got enough Conservatives on their side, that would present a huge problem for Prime Minister Theresa May. On Thursday, she admitted shedding a tear after losing her parliamentary majority in June's election, but insists she will lead Britain through the Brexit negotiations.
I led the campaign and I take responsibility for what happened, but there's also a responsibility for the future for the country, and that was about ensuring that the country had a government.
But in the short term, backbench MPs, knowing how fragile the government is, may well demand reassurances on individual rights.
Workers' rights, equality protections, data protection provisions. Just yesterday, actually, a real kind of example of this. Liberty won a case in the Supreme Court. We represented a man who's been fighting for 11 years to have pensions equality. He is in a same-sex marriage, and he wants his marriage to be treated in the same way as a mixed-sex marriage. And it was a provision of EU law that allowed us to achieve that protection. And we need those rights to be maintained and protected in UK law going forward.
The government says it's simply a case of copying and pasting EU laws into UK law, but the opposition here in Parliament are bound to push not just for amendments to the bill, but for the right to scrutinise those returning powers in the future. Prime Minister Theresa May knows that she's going to have to start offering concessions fairly quickly. Nadim, Al Jazeera, London.